Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Sidestageiwthsoph, the show that takes you behind the safety curtain, behind the scenes, showing you what it really takes to get a show up on its feet. From cuts to costume fittings, sits probe to star ratings, and tech to fine tuning, we will discuss it all here with your host, Soph. Our guest today is the brightest star you've ever seen. She'll have you reaching for the tissues, is the mastermind behind one of the best movie franchises to exist, and does not put on a show without confetti. Can we all give a huge welcome to Debbie Isitt? Woo! Debbie, thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm really well. Thanks for asking me. It's
Yeah,
lovely to be here.
of course. A big fan of your work, as you know. I usually start these conversations asking how an actor prepares. So I'd like to ask you, as a director, what's something you like to do at the start of a rehearsal process, to kind of break the ice or, get everyone talking and not as nervous?
Oh, that's such a good question. I don't really have a formula as such. I think what my big thing is get on with it, kind of start
Get
and
stuck in.
yeah, get stuck right in. And I always think that. I think I've done my own prep at home, obviously, but when I go in, it's like, right, let's not waste any time. Yes, have a quick cup of tea, say hello to each other, but crack on. So, first scene. And we just start
Mm.
on our feet. So we have never do any sitting down and reading or talking. We just start. And from there, the questions come. That's when you can start breaking it down and start getting into character and motivation and all those things. Um, but yeah, for me, it's like day one, it's 10 past 10, off we go.
Here we go. Um, so to start, my proper line of questioning is, as Maria von Trapp would say, let's start at the very beginning. How did you get into directing and writing? Was this always a goal you had, or was there ever another path in mind for you?
Well, I thought I was going to be an actor. That was the idea, and indeed I was for a while, which I think is what made me understand that acting is like a really important job. And I felt that for me, being out of control of my own destiny, as in being a jobbing actor and going up for auditions and all of those things, was just never going to work. Like I have to be in control of my day and
Yeah.
indeed my life as far as any of us can be.
Mm-hmm.
So it was quite early on. I got my first job and I did 18 months touring in Shakespeare. And then I decided really quickly that I was going to set up my own company. I had a vision for it. I felt that I wanted to write my own material, direct my own material, and act. So I did all of that in a theatre company
Uh,
for many, many years, actually. I think it was about 15 years. And we toured, my company was called Snarling Beasties, and I wrote the plays. Directed the plays, but I was also in them, and we toured all over the UK and then all over the world. And it was a massive learning curve, about new writing, about comedy, about audiences, about how to design posters and costumes and sets. And it really taught me kind of everything I felt I needed to know about theatre at that time. But it wasn't musical theatre. There was music in the shows, but they were plays and comedies.
right.
And I worked in a very particular style, quite a physical theatre style. There was a lot of clowning, there was a lot of improvisation, um, and it was quite stylized a lot of the time. But for me, the goal was to always make the acting very naturalistic. So no matter what style I was working in, the whole idea was that the acting had to be truthful, and connect with the audience, and be accessible and relatable. So that was the start of my career. Well, it was actually quite a long time into my career, about 15 years, as I say, before I decided that I was going to move into film. So I've always written, acted, directed as sort of one thing.
Right. Yeah.
And then when I moved into film, I did a little bit of acting, but decided I did not like looking at myself. So I thought there's no point in me being an actor if I'm going to move into film. I'll just do the writing and directing.
Yeah. Well, you're very good at it. So,
Thank you.
your work is iconic. It was hard to think of how to narrow down my questioning, but when I think of you, I think of Nativity, Christmas on Mistletoe Farm, I Should Be So Lucky, and Military Wives is most of the work that I've seen. And there's an overwhelming amount of like joy pouring from it. Where has this come from? Like how do you want your audiences to feel after watching something you've put out into the world?
Yeah, so that's really interesting as well because I do feel like I need to empower an audience. That's where that's coming from, that
Mm-hmm.
feeling of joyfulness or whatever that is, spirit of. I feel like taking an audience on a journey is important to have pathos, to have meaning, to challenge an audience. All of those things are really important. But for me, I feel the need for audiences to leave buoyantly and feeling empowered and like they feel better after the show than before they went, and able, therefore, to tackle life a little
Mm-hmm.
bit better. That there are good things in the world, there are good humans in the world, and if we connect with each other and keep believing in that, actually the world does become a better place. And although that sounds really naive, it is my heartfelt belief. And so I sort of spread that message where I can through my work, even though the
Yeah.
work may be different. Some of it's more family, some of it's more comedy, some of it's slightly darker and more serious. It doesn't really matter. That will always be the outcome, will be go out on a high. As I hope we all leave the world
Yeah.
eventually, no matter what we've been through, um, go out on a high if you can.
Well, it's nice. It's nice to hear that, like, just come from, say, the maker of these productions, because sometimes people say, "Oh, it just kind of happened." People clung on to these, whereas this was your true intention, and it's nice to see that, come into fruition.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Oh, accidents happen. No. Yeah. No. I I work at it.
And you
Smile,
did,
kids, smile.
yeah. Um, you said about making your work as well more human earlier, and about being very physical, and your work is very relatable. You really do, write stories on real people, real people. Like I think of stuff like I Should Be So Lucky and people heading off to Turkey on their holidays and, putting on a school nativity. Like it is very real. So I feel like the idea of being happy in those stories is really not outreach. Like it's quite achievable. And it
Yeah.
really works.
Well,
Um,
that's great. I'm glad you relate to it. And I mean, it's kind of, if you like, it's a bit cliche, it sounds, but ordinary people in extraordinary
yeah.
circumstances. And that's what I'm going for most of the time. And, and I come from a working class background, it's new work, it's work that's set now.
Mm,
There are other people doing brilliant kind of period things, or for me, the contemporary world as it is today, with us living in it, I yeah, I just want to reach that audience that come and see the work.
yeah. It's fab. I did just mention it there about Nativity. I did say to a few people that I was having you on, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I love Nativity. It's iconic. The films are iconic." What do you think it is about those films that people find like some magnetic, and how did those films kind of come about?
Well, I mean, I really wanted to make the film because my daughter was little at the time and doing her own nativity at school.
Hmm.
And it was really that simple, where I sort of went to see the play and went, epiphany, that this is a movie in the making. Like, this is
Yeah,
hilarious. All the kids getting things wrong and messing things up, and the parents all being stressed and the teachers being stressed. And I was like, can't believe actually we haven't had a sort of, traditional nativity as the hook into a big story before.
mm,
And it just literally came to me. I'm
yeah,
going to do that. I'm going to give that a go. That should be fun. I didn't obviously expect that 20 years later people would still be watching it, loving it, new audiences finding it every Christmas, and it would still
yeah,
be on the Netflix top three every. I had no idea. I literally thought, we'll make this little film and it'll be cute and funny, and it took off. And you're asking why not? I think partly because the performances were so brilliant.
mm,
I mean, Martin Freeman, Mark Wootton, Jason Watkins, Ashley Jensen, Pam Ferris. These are great, 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 great actors, and many more. Obviously we were lucky to have lovely Alan Carr in it and other cameos, but Ricky Tomlinson. I mean, brilliant Brit actors,
yeah,
doing really good work. But also because you probably know that the films are improvised, and I don't really write the scripts down, so
yes,
I talk the actors through the scripts instead. and that gives them license to use a lot of their own dialogue where they want to. And there's a kind of alchemy and a chemistry there that's very conducive to comedy, and it was really helpful for the children because, you know, a lot of those children were too young to really be able to read properly
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and learn lines. And I didn't want them to do that anyway. I wanted them to be themselves. And those children were not from stage schools. You know, they were from a local primary school up the road in Coventry. And so it was like almost like bringing the great actors and kind of real children together, and trying to make everything kind of feel like in one world, in a real world, even though it's heightened and kind of daft at times. Those children always called Martin Mr. Maddens. They didn't know who he was. They didn't know he was an actor. And Mr. Poppy was Mr. Poppy. Like,
yeah,
so it all became very real, and the actors kind of took on a kind of, you know, genuine commitment to their roles, because they were, most of the day, you know, those kids thought they were at school. They didn't even know they were in a film, to be honest. You know, so it all had this lovely authenticity
yes,
about it. And I think it's that people pick up on. They pick up on the authenticity, on the comedy, obviously, in the heart. But I think it is that. I think that's what's special about it. You can tell that there's something not fake and or bored. You know, it's very spontaneous. Everything's in the moment. It's just a little bit of magic in them, really, because of the way they're made, I think, because
yeah.
of the improv. Yeah.
It is nice because sometimes you just watch, like, you know, kids in a program and you can tell almost that they've been told to stand on one or go there, and like it's just watching kids be kids, and
Yeah.
so funny. You
Yeah.
never know what's
Yeah.
going to come out of their mouth.
Exactly that, exactly that. And I didn't, you know, and that's the thing. I'm the writer, but I'm like, you know, just go and do your little audition, do your best. And they came up with those auditions themselves, for example. You know, they weren't told what to do.
Yeah.
So it was literally, they were just gifting me by being themselves. So I present the scenario and then let them go. And that makes a little bit of magic.
Yeah. Yeah. So next we have to talk about military wives. As you know, it took me and Freya by a mile last year. Um, I'm conscious about not asking questions you've answered before, as I have seen all the interviews, pertaining military wives, the musical, and how it came about. But clearly, you poured a lot into it. Like I heard how, you know, went around to different military bases and stuff. I was just wondering just how much like research and maybe how long you were working on the show before it came um to yours.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a couple of years in the making. Obviously, from being approached as a writer to do an adaptation of the movie, and to sort of make a new piece of theatre that was partly based on the movie and partly whatever I felt I needed it to be. So I was given that license, which was fantastic, by the producers. And so I did go and do my own research. I'd watched all the Gareth Malone documentary on the Military Wives Choir, which was very moving and brilliant. I'd seen it originally on the television and watched it with my mum, and we'd both really enjoyed it and done a lot of crying watching it, you know. So partly as well, I wanted to do it for my mum because I knew how much it meant to her, and choir means to her. And the idea of women, you know, starting their own choir is such an inspiring story. But then I wanted to get behind what it's really like to live in a military compound and have your husband and partner away, and in danger. And yeah, so I did that research, and we did a couple of workshops over that 2 years. And then I sort of had what I felt was the enough information to go in and put the show together with again an amazing cast, just brilliant cast.
Yeah.
So lucky. I am so lucky to work with the actors I work with. You know, that this is my power, is them. You know, that casting is everything to me. And I do work with the same people quite a lot, but that's because they're amazing, and we grow a relationship and learn to trust each other. And that's really important, especially when you're using a lot of improvisation, because it's a very vulnerable place to be when I'm saying, oh, just say your own words, but here's what I want you to do. That's a big ask, you know, and not every actor can do that, and lots of them are frightened of it. And so obviously when you find people who really love it and who want to do it, it makes it, well, it just means I can go further with my ideas and my vision for theatre and film.
How did you come to the I don't know if it came from your earlier days or like put just making improvisation like the center of your rehearsal process. Like, how did
Yeah,
you figure out, oh, I did that before, that actually worked. Let's implement that kind of
yeah,
forever, for lack of
yeah.
a better term.
Well, I mean, in back in the day when I was sort of starting out writing plays, I did use improvisation because
Mm,
obviously it's a technique that's, I mean, every actor is supposed to be in the moment, and it's very hard to learn your lines and then forget you know them
yeah,
in order to be in the moment, as if for the first time you're speaking these actual words that you haven't even written. Like all of that is quite a lot to get your head around. Um, and of course, it's what actors do every day, and the brilliant ones do it brilliantly well. But I suppose I wanted to just look at it from a different angle and say, well, we know what the subtext is, we know what we want, we know what the scene is about. If we say our own words, take ownership, what happens? And actually, it was brilliant. And so I used it in the theatre, but I always, obviously, you have to, if you're a playwright, and I was a published playwright, you have to write the plays. Yeah, I did write the plays, but
yeah,
I loved using the improvisation because it kept it alive. And I used to say, look, when we're on tour, we're doing 8 shows a week, but sometimes we did those shows for 3 years on the road. It's like you do get a bit fed up. Like, change the words sometimes, as long as the meaning's the same and the intention
yes,
is the same. I used to say, just feel free to change the word, say it in a different way, as long as it's the same outcome. And so that just gave us new energy every time. And then when I moved into film, I realised actually working with Ricky Tomlinson, that the guy from the royal family and amongst other things, he and I made a feature film, my first feature film called Nasty Neighbours. And he was like, shall we do one for us? Like, so there's the script. We've done the script. Shall we do one for us? And I'd say, yeah, let's do it. Let's have a go. Let's use the improvisation. And we did. And I realized on film, you have more control over the edit. So actually, if things go wrong, me and the editor could control that scene much, much more easily than
yeah,
on a stage where if it
mm,
goes wrong, oh God. So actually, it was film that made me decide it was the way forward.
yeah,
And once I'd made a few films and I came back to theatre for
yes,
Nativity the musical, um, I just knew that that was a process that was for me, and I could go into a room with the right actors and spend a couple of weeks in a room and come out with a show. I mean,
yeah,
that's and for me that was miraculous and wonderful, and so much better than slaving over a script for 6 months, on my own. When my brain doesn't work like that, I have to work on my feet.
yes. I'd be like that. Yeah,
Yeah. So it just unlocks it for me, and I can see it then when it's happening in front of me, and I can edit it in my head, and I can change things around, and it's like being back in the edit of a movie when I'm in
yeah,
a room and I go, oh, now I know what needs to happen. Now I
yeah.
see it. Okay, now do this. Now do that. Now go there. Now say this. And it just works.
It's much easier to just have someone go back and be like, oh, maybe try that again, rather than I feel like it can get quite stressful trying to remember one exact line or an exact line. And then you're getting flustered that you're forgetting it. You have to go back and then you're, holding everyone up. Whereas you're like, no, let's just change it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Exactly. And to be adaptable and to be truthful. I mean, that's the thing.
Mm,
It's like, to use your instincts, to be empowered as actors as well, to use your instincts, you feel like saying that, say it.
yes.
Say it, don't say the other thing where it doesn't quite connect with you. Like, so I can do that because I'm the writer, obviously
Yeah.
you can't go around changing, Shakespeare's lines or Tom Stoppard's or
Yeah.
anybody's come to that. But if I'm the writer and I'm directing, you can change mine. You can
Hmm.
change my lines any time you want, as long as it's the right
Yeah.
subtext, as long as the intention's there, as long as it works.
Yeah. It's great to hear that as well. I think I've mentioned it before on one of these episodes, but sometimes I feel like you can see a bit of a divide maybe from directors to actor, like this is the way it's been written, this is the way you do it, then they do it. Whereas having that like back and forth is really refreshing, and it definitely helps tell your real stories better because, and a lot of your work is people using their real accents as well,
Yeah,
and that's great. And because so people know off instinct what they would say as well in that
yeah,
accent, not putting anything on. It's just Real.
Yeah. And nothing gets in the way then, because
Mm-hmm.
it's all about this direct communication, this getting what you want as an actor from the other actor. You know, what's the intention? What's the action? And nothing gets in the way for the audience. So they don't sort of sniff out this, oh, what's that accent? That's gone a bit funny. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, using your real accent is really important. Sometimes you can't. And so you have to really try and get it right. But on the whole, you can. And if you can, I'm all for it, because just don't want anything to get in the way of the truth. I don't want an actor
Yes.
concentrating on their accent when they should be in the moment of the scene, like
Mm-hmm.
feeling something. Um, yeah.
Yeah, that's lovely. Okay, we have come to the this or that section of our episode. You can answer as quick or as slow as you like. If you need explanation, let me know. Or yeah, let me know. So I'll just start. So Sarah or Princess Sabina?
Princess Sabina.
Mr. Poppy or Dave?
Mr. Poppy.
Um, I should be so lucky or ain't no mountain high enough.
That's a hard one. That's a hard one. Ain't no mountain high enough.
Would you rather spend Christmas on Mistletoe Farm or a holiday in Turkey with the I Should Be So Lucky gang?
Possible. I mean, my goodness. Can I do Christmas on Mistletoe Farm and New Year in Turkey with the
Yeah, yeah, if you want. And lastly, would you rather perform in a nativity with the St. Bernadettes or at the Royal Albert Hall with the Military Wives Choir?
Oh, I'd have to say Nativity. I
Yeah.
just would. I mean, I wouldn't be good enough to be at the Albert Hall. And I'm yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy doing the Nativity. Yeah.
Debbie, that is all the questions I have for today. Thank you so much again for joining me, and thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you the next time on Side Stage with Soph. Bye!